The Thucydides Trap. Ancient insight, modern relevance, and scholarly debate. The concept of the Thucydides Trap has become a central framework for understanding the risks of great power conflict in the 21st century, especially as the United States and China navigate a period of intense rivalry and shifting global influence. To fully appreciate its relevance in 2025, it is essential to examine its ancient origins, modern applications, scholarly critiques, and the lessons it offers for contemporary policymakers. 1. Origins: Thucydides and the Peloponnesian War. The term Thucydides Trap is rooted in the analysis of the Peloponnesian War by the ancient Greek historian Thucydides. In his History of the Peloponnesian War, Thucydides famously wrote, "It was the rise of Athens and the fear that this instilled in Sparta that made war inevitable." This observation highlights the structural tension that arises when a rising power, Athens, threatens to displace an established hegemon, Sparta. Thucydides' account is not merely about the inevitability of war, but also about the interplay of fear, honor, interest, and human agency. He details how a series of events, such as the disputes over Corcyra, Potidaea, and Megara, acted as catalysts, escalating tensions and drawing the Greek world into a devastating conflict. Thucydides also explores the ethical and psychological dimensions of war, as seen in episodes like the Mytilenean debate and the Melian dialogue, where questions of morality, power, and survival are laid bare. The disastrous Sicilian expedition, driven by Athenian ambition and internal discord, serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of overreach and misjudgment. 2. Modern application: Graham Allison and U.S. China relations. Harvard political scientist Graham Allison popularized the term Thucydides Trap to describe the structural stress that occurs when a rising power, China, threatens to displace an established one, the United States. In his influential book, Destined for War, Can America and China Escape Thucydides' Trap?, Allison and his team examined 16 historical cases of power transitions, finding that 12 ended in war. Allison argues that the rapid rise of China, economically, technologically, and militarily, has created a dynamic similar to that of Athens and Sparta. The U.S., as the incumbent power, perceives China's ascent as a threat to its global leadership, leading to heightened competition and the risk of conflict. However, Allison is careful to note that war is not inevitable. He emphasizes the importance of conscious policy choices, creative diplomacy, and the development of new strategic frameworks that allow for both competition and cooperation. The Cold War, in which the U.S. and the Soviet Union avoided direct conflict through deterrence and diplomacy, is cited as a model for managing great power rivalry in the nuclear age. 3. Scholarly critiques and alternative perspectives. While the Thucydides Trap has gained traction in policy and media circles, it has also attracted significant scholarly critique. A. Methodological and empirical critiques, sample size and selection. Bias. Critics argue that Allison E.S. dataset of 16 cases is too small and selectively chosen to support broad generalizations. Many power transitions have not led to war, and the historical record is more nuanced. Modern context differences. The analogy to ancient Greece may not hold in a world shaped by nuclear deterrence, economic interdependence, and international institutions. Theoretical critiques, overemphasis on structure. The Thucydides Trap is often criticized for downplaying the role of human agency, diplomacy, and statecraft. Leaders' choices, perceptions, and miscalculations are crucial in determining outcomes. Risk of self-fulfilling prophecy. Framing U.S. China relations as structurally destined for conflict can encourage zero-sum thinking and militarized policies, increasing the risk of war. See Donald Kagan's critique. Historian Donald Kagan, a leading Thucydides scholar, argues that the so-called trap is not a historical law. Kagan emphasizes that Thucydides' history is a study in human agency, leadership, and miscalculation, not a prophecy of inevitable war. He insists that the outbreak of the Peloponnesian War was contingent on specific decisions and circumstances, not an automatic result of power transition. Kagan's view is that the real trap is poor decision-making by leaders, not the structural conditions themselves. He and other scholars caution against deterministic readings and urge policymakers to focus on wise decision-making and diplomacy. 4. Alternative frameworks for great power transitions. Beyond the Thucydides trap, scholars have developed a range of alternative frameworks to understand great power transitions. Power transition theory, PTT, focuses on the satisfaction or dissatisfaction of rising powers with the status quo, suggesting that peaceful transitions are possible if the challenger is content with the existing order. Balance of power theory emphasizes the role of alliances and the agency of secondary powers in preventing any one state from becoming too dominant. Hegemonic stability theory argues that a single dominant power is necessary for global order, but this is critiqued for underestimating the resilience of institutions and norms. Strategic culture and institutional approaches highlight the importance of beliefs, norms, and international institutions in shaping state behavior and mitigating conflict. Economic interdependence suggests that deep economic ties can reduce the likelihood of war as the costs of conflict become prohibitive. These frameworks underscore the complexity of great power competition and the importance of context, agency, and institutional arrangements in shaping outcomes. 5. U.S. China relations. In 2025, the current landscape. In 2025, U.S. China relations are marked by intensified economic rivalry. The U.S. has imposed high tariffs and technology restrictions. China is pursuing self-reliance and expanding trade with emerging markets. Military tensions. The Indo-Pacific, especially Taiwan and the South China Sea, remains a flashpoint, with both sides increasing military posturing and alliances. Diplomatic engagement. Despite tensions, high-level dialogues and crisis management mechanisms persist, reflecting a mutual recognition of the risks of escalation. Global impact. The rivalry is reshaping global trade, alliances, and the international order, with third countries recalibrating their strategies in response. While the risk of direct war remains low, the potential for miscalculation or proxy conflict is real. Both sides are recalibrating their strategies, and the outcome will depend on the choices of leaders, the resilience of institutions, and the ability to manage competition constructively. 6. Lessons and policy implications. The enduring relevance of the Thucydides trap lies in its warning. Power transitions are fraught with risk, but war is not inevitable. The true lesson of Thucydides, as interpreted by Kagan and others, is that human agency, wise leadership, and diplomacy can avert disaster. Policymakers should avoid deterministic thinking and recognize the importance of choices, perceptions, and negotiation. Invest in diplomatic channels and crisis management mechanisms to reduce the risk of miscalculation. Leverage economic interdependence and international institutions to create incentives for peaceful competition. Learn from history, but avoid simplistic analogies that obscure the unique features of the modern era. 7. Conclusion. The Thucydides trap remains a powerful lens for understanding the dangers of great power rivalry, but it is not a prophecy of inevitable war. The ancient lessons of Athens and Sparta, enriched by modern scholarship and alternative frameworks, remind us that the future is shaped by the choices of leaders and societies. In 2025, as the U.S. and China navigate a period of profound change, the challenge is to manage competition without succumbing to fear, miscalculation, or fatalism, and to remember that peace, though difficult, is always possible.